It's February 24th, Monday, February 24th, and it's 6 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. First on the agenda is,
Can we,
go ahead.
Ray, can Ray go first?
Yeah, oh yeah, sure, definitely, yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Well,
we have,
I had you up first and I changed you because it might be late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Ray Goff here, food inspector. Ray?
Well, Hi, I'm Ray Gauthier. I was hired back in November to be a per diem health inspector. So I come out and do restaurants and get paid for only what I do. I've done a few in town. I did one a couple weeks ago, but I haven't seen you since then. I did the flea market on
Okay.
a Saturday morning. I just came out and did them. I think it's new for me. Coming into town, there's a lot of places that don't know there's a new food code that came out in 2018. So when I brought it up to the 5 places I've done, they were all like, well, what are you talking about? Because there's some things they have to do. So I did speak with Kristen, told them, look, I'm not gonna hammer them on the new food code items. I'm gonna slowly walk it into them, and then in 6 months when I come back, I'm gonna expect them to have it in place. But there's nothing huge, so it's not a big monetary thing. It's having the food code on site, having a sign that says, and that's something I'll talk to you about too, something we did in our town might help. They have to have a sign, every restaurant has a sign that says our last inspection report is available for review, so they have to keep those on site. A few other things, they have to have a special kit for bodily fluid release. If there's an issue, they have to have a special kit. It's not bloodborne pathogen, it's a different one. Nobody knew anything about it, so I'm slow rolling everything out. Everybody's been very welcoming for the 5 I've met, and we'll just go from there.
First of all, well, second of all, I should say, I'd like to welcome you.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
And we appreciate you coming here this evening, and I'm sure you can offer a lot of
I hope so.
information to us anyway, yes.
So I've been, I just got my RS, which is registered sanitarian, in November. I was a chef for 25 years, and I've been doing this kind of work for 12 years part-time, but then 8 years ago I started full-time in Framingham, and I've been in Westboro for the past 6.
Wow, that's,
So, and then I've been in Sutton for 11 years, and I think that's where Kristen got my name. And,
Oh, yeah?
But it was lucky you guys, Kristen contacted me before Uxbridge, so I took this one over Uxbridge, because you guys
Smart
contacted me
move.
first.
Yeah.
So, you guys contacted me first, and I had spoken with Kristen at first, so I said, okay, I'll then when I got a call from the other Kristen Black over in Uxbridge, and asked me, I said, well, let me see how things go in Douglas first, so. And things seem to work out and seem to
we're
mesh
very nice
perfectly.
people.
Oh, that's what I hear. Any other questions for me? Anything you want to know?
Have we had any problems that, you know?
No, I mean, there's been some critical violations. We
Yeah.
had one that didn't have a permit, but did they finally get a hold of you?
She got a hold of me, yes.
Okay, and that's working. Okay, so we had one that didn't have a permit.
Uh-huh,
Ran into an issue tonight when I grabbed dinner, but I can handle that one offline.
okay.
Yeah, it was just they were bare hand contact, and I tried to explain to him you can't do it. He said,
Sure.
"Oh, yes, I can." No, you can't. And I didn't tell him who it was, but I think in 2 weeks when I go do inspection, he'll know who I am.
There you go, there you go.
Yeah.
Good way to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but other than that, no, everybody's been really nice. Everybody wants to know, oh, where's Steve? And I said, I don't know. I said, I was contacted to come out and do work because Steve was no longer doing it. I said, that's all I know.
Right,
So,
right.
same thing happened in Sutton. He left Sutton and I took over
Yeah,
Sutton 11
yeah.
years ago.
Sure.
So,
Well, like I say, we appreciate your presence.
Yes.
no problem. I have, like I said, I've been doing it for a while. I'll leave some cards here in case. This is my email that I use, so if anybody needs any information, I think you already have my information, but.
Would you possibly be willing to do any beach inspections and that type of thing?
Yeah, if those can be done on the weekends.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to do your water testing, or I don't know if you
It's
have to do
not-
weekly
Yeah,
water
it'd be
testing.
Water testing.
Yeah, that would, or if it could be done on a Saturday morning, possibly.
You have to get to the lab though.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, because I do mine every Monday morning in Westboro, so it's, yeah, that'd be a little difficult for me because I work 40 hours a week now
Sure,
in town.
I understand.
And I don't do Webster Lake either, even though that's one of my towns I cover. I make the town do it. I have actually the fire department does it for me down there. They do the
Okay.
test,
Yeah, yeah.
pickup. So, yes, sir.
What about training for people who would get the water samples?
You know.
I could do a training, because I've been doing it. I actually do different water testing too, because we have the cyanobacteria outbreaks and that's tested a little differently. So I've done multiples with different, companies, so who do you use for water testing?
Michael Beck.
Like Beck, we use a different lab, but it's pretty much the same thing,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I could easily, if somebody else was able to do it, I could train someone to do it, it's not a problem. I've already told Chris I'm gonna take a couple days off in March to finish all the restaurants except for the, seasonals, and I'll come back in May or June and do the seasonals.
Okay.
Cause I have to do the seasonal on the lake in Sutton, so the water slides are on the same lake, just so I can just go
Sure.
right around the corner and,
Yeah.
and do them all at the same time.
Excellent.
So it's not a problem there.
Great, that's super. Anything new coming in, or something that we should be aware of, or?
No, cause I'm still trying to feel my way around,
Yeah.
trying to see what's going on. I don't know if you have any public pools in town, but the pool code's supposed to be coming out in May. I don't know if it's gonna, so you don't have to worry about that. The beach code, it really hasn't changed much. Housing, they were supposed to remodel the housing code, which they really haven't sent it out yet. I'm trying to think what else. Do you have tanning salons or tattoo parlors in town?
No.
Then you don't have to worry about those codes. I have those in my other towns. I mean, if anything comes up,
Sure, sure.
Kristen has my email, I'll be able to email her back and forth with whatever, if there's a question. And if anything comes up, if there's like you had a complaint, I can always, if I can do something at night, I'll come out and do a complaint if I'm available, not a
Mhm.
problem.
Sure. Well, that's great.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Anybody else?
Any other questions? So I'm sorry, I didn't get everybody's names, and sir, you are
Corey.
Corey?
Nice to meet you.
I know you guys in the office, Bob. And sir, I'm sorry, your name again was?
Dick.
Dick. And you did speak to me about wanting to come out at some point, which I
Whenever
think
you're
in the fall, once I meet everybody, then I'll talk to Chris, and we'll set something up, and I'll have you come out with me on a few.
And you can do a brain dump.
Not a problem. Any other questions for me?
I think we're all set. Thank you,
Well,
Ray.
thank you very much.
Appreciate your,
I'll see if you need anything, please contact me.
appreciate all your information. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Right.
Okay, so we have, moving back to the top, are we?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. Go to number 1, approved FY '21 budget.
So we have to vote on this.
We have to vote on it. The one thing, Kristen, that we forgot to mention, I think, is Dick's increase. Did we mention that, Gene?
No.
I was thinking, I got home today.
George, you can sit down, bro. Sit over there. George. You can sit
So
down.
we may not
No,
be
sit
able
there,
to
sit right here.
approve it. We had a meeting. See her?
We can approve it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. If
Yeah,
you
but
come-
we're not, yeah.
No, we could have a meeting. We could,
No, we can't, because I think this agenda.
oh, okay.
We could call an emergency meeting.
It has to be posted 48 hours in advance.
Hmm.
For it to be legal.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
I think we ought to take the transfer station wages and cut them in half for this year. Save some money.
Yeah.
I'd say something, but I'm gonna be nice.
We can hold off.
We could just approve.
You could approve it, yeah.
What we could do is
Yeah.
later in the week, if you want, you could post it, come in, just do that.
Well, we
I
could
think we're
probably
supposed
just
to do it
approve
before
it.
tomorrow night. no?
Oh,
We could probably just approve it knowing we're gonna have numbers.
Right, just.
One
okay,
day.
yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. With,
I move we accept the budget as presented, with the exception of possible addition
okay.
of a step forward. Wage increase.
A motion has been made to approve the budget,
Both budget transfer and board out.
both transfer and board account,
A second.
with the exception of the amended,
Wage increase.
yeah, wage increase. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess we're good there. And we have Title V agent authorized to review planning board's request for review.
So all that means is, when the planning board receives a plan that needs Board of Health review, or they send it to all the departments. If we can just, cause Jim Malley always did it, Steve does it, but if we probably should vote on that that the Title V inspector is the one who reviews it, so that,
Okay, so that's.
designate that
basically-
one person.
Okay. So do we need to make a motion for that, or,
I would,
okay,
What did you say that he's reviewing?
the planning board request
Request?
for review, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow the Title V agent the authorization to approve the planning board request for review.
very good.
What's entailed in those reviews? What is it, what's exactly?
Like the last one we had was for, like a big, solar place where he recommended that they put like porta potties out there, or it could be, anything they're doing that he makes sure that there's no like septic system wells or anything in the way, or it could be subdivisions, it could be,
I mean, anything besides from that Title V type stuff would come to us anyways?
right, but anything,
Related to the Title V?
right.
Alright, I'll second that.
Well, okay, so we have a motion. Yeah, second.
Yeah, in relation to the Title V only.
Right. Okay, so all in favor?
Alright.
Aye, okay. All right, so now we go to hiring Board of Health office part-time position. So we did discuss that, and it's been approved?
No,
It hasn't?
no, but that can fall under the other one.
Okay,
too,
that's good, okay. Yeah, we can do the same with that one.
So that is not in the budget?
No,
No,
no.
Okay.
So we should make another motion?
Yeah, how many
well,
hours were
you
you
said
thinking?
with wage part-time
Okay,
wages, so.
okay, so that's good.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
wage increase.
okay, that's fine. So we're gonna just package that all in one, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
and it's all the same.
okay, so now we have.
Could we have an answer to Corey's question?
How many
Oh.
hours were you thinking you would need somebody?
That's the thing, is we have to figure out how much money we have. Depends how much money.
Yeah,
That you could use somebody for, but I mean, you don't wanna use somebody and then catch up in 3 weeks and then.
I will never catch up. It will not, it will never, there's stuff that
No,
goes,
catch up?
no.
So at least,
going.
at least like 1 or 2 days a week, couple days a week probably.
Preferably two,
yeah,
and then
2
I'd have
days.
coverage too, so
Right.
14 hours, but
Yeah,
it'd have to come out of transfer station, cause it cannot come out of general fund.
Right,
okay.
I've been in here doing research, and what I can say is that she is constantly interrupted by people coming in,
Oh,
doing
we-
legitimate business, but constantly interrupted.
we realize that, and that's exactly why we're
Mm.
looking into it.
And the other question is, where's the cutoff for hours before you're part-time, full-time?
19, I believe. That's what I was hired at,
Is it
19.
19 hours?
I think over 20 is,
Wow.
Yeah, I think over 20.
Yeah.
And I know another town where it's 24, and I'm just wondering,
it's 19, cause when I got hired for this position, it was 19. So I got hired at 19.
could that have changed?
It did not, no, I don't think so. Because any part-time person I know in the building is 19.
So if we were talking about help for you, we'd be talking 19 or under.
I would think 14 would be perfect. Yes, there wouldn't be any insurance or anything involved. No benefits.
I would make a motion that we approve hiring a part-time Board of Health office staff member.
A second that?
Person.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we have RFQ, solid waste slash monitor wells. Okay, so,
That's two, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
RFQs. Well, I'm still working on these, and I need input from Matt,
What is this?
as well for the RFQs for the monitor wells.
mm,
Um, I think we still have time if I can get it together, and if we can get this out sometime in March and get it back in March, I think that would be
Yeah,
enough time, but,
yeah.
just talking to people,
Mhm.
and I have to see where I'm going with this, but right now we hire a lab to do the monitor wells.
Right,
Yeah, and they farm out to at least 2 other places.
Well, I'm thinking maybe, and I have to look into it, is look into hiring a,
So maybe I missed something, why are we changing the way?
we're hiring a lab. Like, we should probably be hiring like a, it's
How
not-
have
not
we
a
done it in
liaison,
the
but like-
past?
Like a Bruce Haskell, what?
How have we done it in the past?
Just a lab.
yeah, it's just,
But I can't think of the word. Not an agent.
go-between?
Well, yeah, what?
Like a contractor?
Like, yeah, they contract it out to someone that handles everything,
Mhm.
and then they get the water tested, and then they get the results, and then they analyze it,
And then they report,
we're like, then we're,
make a report.
right, make a report, takes the
Mhm.
burden off of
Right,
the board.
right, right,
And it's someone that knows how to work with DEP and knows what they're talking about, and.
right,
Okay.
right.
Which
Also
is-
knows regulations.
Right, and we do have, which is coming up here too, but, Bruce Haskell, who does the landfill and, transfer station.
So currently you're
Inspections.
dealing with all of those ins and outs of that?
Not
We should-
really.
No,
So we just, when you hire the lab.
don't we, put that out to bid?
We do,
Yeah,
we've always been just hiring labs,
right, but we put, oh, so.
yeah,
So we would directly hire a lab, you're looking for somebody to go,
to hire a person, and
Oh.
then that person's in charge of it.
okay, and
And
then
then
we
they
wash our
get it-
hands of it.
Right, they get the
as
sample,
far
they get
as
it back, and then they analyze it to
Okay.
make sure everything's up to par.
Okay, I
And if
see.
it's not, how to fix it and.
Okay,
So that, I assume
Kinda
that's
takes
gonna
the
cost
burden.
more.
yeah,
off of
kinda
us.
takes the burden.
Right, because we just get a report and
Yeah,
all these numbers and.
I mean, she's inundated now
Right.
with things,
Right,
I mean,
well, hopefully the 14-hour person will help too.
yeah.
But even like, without that, I think
Hmm,
having someone on top of things more,
right,
rather than just someone that samples water and analyzes it and sends us a report.
sure, yeah.
How much more of a cost do you think that would be?
That's
I'm
a
just
good
getting nervous.
question.
That's
I
the
don't know.
question,
That's
we
what
have to
I'm-
send it out to bid and,
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'd
that-
have
that's
to look
what,
at that.
yeah,
you know, I get apprehensive about adding,
Right.
if we're doing a wage increase, transfer station, and then we add another person here, and then we add something else, it's gonna cost more.
Yeah,
That's a lot all at once to ask.
well, we'll see what
I have
it
no
brings,
idea.
I guess,
Yeah.
see what it brings,
I haven't.
who's
really-
writing up the
I
quote?
think it's a good idea.
You don't know,
Well,
who brought this,
idea,
this idea, yeah,
I was talking to Bill, and he does a lot of the procurement along with Matt, for all the
Okay.
legality stuff. And,
well, maybe he could help us with.
well, he's helping
he
me,
is,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, so you're putting together a bid,
I'm trying to, yes, so he's
Okay.
looking at the transfer station one with me now,
yeah,
and just giving us different ideas,
so do you think we'll have to meet before,
End of March,
yeah,
maybe in the middle of March,
okay, so we can get this thing,
right?
okay,
And if we can get them back by April,
sure,
we have till June 30th, so.
okay. Yeah, if we could meet.
It's more the transfer station, I think, cause if it changes, we'll have to do all the equipment and everything.
Sure, okay. Okay, do we have to make a motion for that?
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kinda throwing it
okay,
out there.
you're just throwing it out there,
Just
okay.
ideas.
It seems like a
trying
good
to-
idea, I just get
Yeah.
nervous that we're, start spending too much money at once. You know, we're
Right.
increasing our budget with a couple of different things.
Yeah, I
Increasing
mean.
too much, we're gonna
yeah.
have some problems, somebody's just gonna say, no, you can't do all that.
Yeah, no,
You know, and shut us down
Well,
on,
that's always the possibility.
you know, I
You
mean,
know, yeah, but, let's see where it goes anyway, and,
look into it.
yeah,
That's all you
yeah,
can
we
do.
have until June, so
Right.
now's the time to.
so we got a little bit of time to put
Yeah,
it together.
yeah, now's the time to
All
look
right.
at it.
Let's see how it
If we
goes
can't
and then-
afford, we can't afford.
Right.
We'll do
So we need,
something
so we
else,
need some
but-
real answers by probably next meeting then,
Yeah.
as far as what direction we're heading.
Maybe even taking a look at, the quotes too,
Mhm.
if possible, or the, not the quotes, but the,
RFQs that we have.
Yeah.
They're on your email.
yeah, okay.
I didn't print them again, but you guys do, you do have them.
All right, so we'll,
Well, that's the monitoring wells piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The solid waste,
yeah,
it needs to be done sooner. If-
Well, we're now
If we
working
get a
on
new bidder.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so, we go to, beach water testing, and you
Okay,
have
yep.
something there, right?
So now what we do is we hire a person to go to the beaches to test the water. They bring it to the lab, and then the lab contacts me with results.
And we
So
pay,
I'm paying the beach
Yeah, we
tester,
pay the
the
beach.
mileage,
right,
then I'm paying the lab,
right.
and I'm charging the beaches.
Mhm.
When I went to my Board of Health meeting with my other girls from Buxton Valley, they have someone that works at the beaches that tests their own water.
Mhm.
So they test their own water, they bring it to the lab, and they're in charge of all of that, and then the Board of Health gets the results and the paperwork.
So, yeah.
So I
There
contacted.
again, it takes some of the burden off of us, you know, of her in particular.
Right, and I contacted the state and I'm like, do you need to be certified to do the beach? And she said, no. Pretty much, usually like Joe could probably do it, cause
Mhm.
he's done it before, or even you
Sure.
could do it. It's just go show the person they're gonna use. I have actually put it in your packets. It's like a little paperwork on how exactly to test the water.
Mhm.
And you're supposed to, where you should test it when it's a heavy bathing load and.
Is there,
Is that what I did?
Oh, right here.
It's in
What
here.
time?
Yeah.
Is that same thing?
is there a
So,
particular form that they have to fill out?
Yes.
There is,
yeah,
okay.
So it's
there's
probably-
ones, and I need them back, cause I send them all back to the.
We just need a new beach
State.
water tester for the summer.
No, I'm trying to like let the beaches
No.
hire them.
Yeah, let the beaches hire them, or the owners of, you know,
Doing
whatever.
themselves in
Right.
December, that's
So
a
then
good
if
idea.
there's a high level, then they will, I don't know if we wanna post the high levels or if we want the beaches to be responsible for
Yeah,
that.
if we post them, it could be havoc.
So just make sure that they do post them. If there's a high
Right.
result, we can just
Although,
buy them.
that could be a
Right.
conflict of interest, no? If the beaches are hiring their own water testers for their.
Well, no,
I don't even
because,
think they would need to hire them.
They will do
It
that
could be someone that
themselves,
owns the
yeah.
beach, it could be,
we could even recommend, you know, certain people, like, he would do that, Ray.
he can only do it on Saturday, he said, and you have to go to the lab within 6 hours.
But I mean, we could get his name out there, so,
Yeah.
you know.
Or they can do, I mean, it's not hard,
Or like you say, Joe.
Joe, well, Joe, I don't know if he wants to do that, but it's really just scooping up water and
Right,
driving it
it
to the.
isn't that-
Yeah, I did it when I was
Yeah.
the health agent driving around a couple
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
probably 3 or 4 times.
Yes, I did it once, one of them.
So if Joe or someone could go just show whoever they're
Sure.
designating,
Yep.
they have to do it once a
Yeah.
week, and now like Wallem Lake Terrace was on a monthly testing, but they had one high result last summer, so now
Mhm.
they're back to weekly for 2 years, so.
So that's another site? Cause when I did
Well,
it, there was only
There's two, but there's
There's
one that does it monthly,
Manchog. That's why, yeah, I was only doing the Manchog camping
cause it was
Oh,
high.
yeah.
and,
Oh, no, it wasn't high, you were filling in.
yeah, Manchog camping and the water slides.
Yep.
Were the 2 spots. So now you gotta add Wallen Lake too, to that,
Well, Wallem Lake is
but they,
once a month, so once a month they do all three. And then the other weeks they do two.
Okay.
So,
I told you I'd have a draft of a letter.
yeah,
It doesn't incorporate everything I heard tonight, but it's a start.
and then we get the test results back here at the Board of Health office.
right, so right now it's set up that if there's a high result, they'll contact me. If it's after hours, they'll contact the health agent and just let them know.
So they have to
it's-
use one lab, or they will be able to choose the lab?
Well, there's certified labs,
Mhm.
so they can use whatever
We should
certified.
give them a list.
Yeah,
So there were some things that need fixing in there.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
general concept is,
Right.
it's
Mhm.
yours.
yeah,
And I kept the responsibility for posting signs here
yeah,
to ensure that it gets posted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, but obviously you can agree to change it,
Yeah.
have them responsible.
I think if they could, and then we just drive by and make sure it's there.
right,
That's
let them
easy.
take the responsibility. Also, Microbac will also test water,
Yeah.
but, and
Yeah, you know, Kristen, now that I think of it, we could post it, because we're not testing it.
Right.
All we're doing is posting it.
Right, because we're
And
getting.
that is
the
our
bills.
responsibility. So, yeah, we could definitely post it. I mean, we can't, you know, you
Right.
can't avoid what you can't avoid,
Right.
and that's something that, it really is our
Yeah, I still,
position to do
I don't
that.
know, I question having, like, the water slide guy or the Lake Manchog guy collect, or have somebody collect their own sample.
Mm.
Cause I mean, when,
You have
a
a
couple
problem with
times that, I do, cause a couple times I went there, it wasn't like open arms, come on in and test.
Oh, no, it isn't, no.
And if they're hiring their own, or they're doing it themselves, I mean, they certainly weren't thrilled that I was testing their water.
Yeah.
You know, so my fear is, you know, somebody's gonna say, you know, you're testing it for me.
And we've
I
had
want you to
problems.
go
We've
over
had
there,
problems in the
take the
past.
boat out
Yeah.
and test it in the middle of the lake rather than on the
Right,
shore, you know?
right.
If you get somebody else that's hiring the person doing the test, that's what I mean, a conflict of interest, it's like,
Mm.
like I said, I mean, I went there and granted it was like 10:30, right, one of the places was already
Yeah,
open, there
yeah,
was
yeah.
people swimming,
Yep.
and he was annoyed that I was there,
Well, that's when you're supposed to do it.
unhappy with me being there at the time.
Right,
And I
right.
said, okay, well, I'll go off to the side, but I'm doing it now. And he's like, do you have to do it now? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm here, this is what I'm doing. I'm not going, and I did it, and I went off to the side, and
Yeah,
it was fine. But if they're hiring that person,
Yeah,
that's just I would see that being a problem. You know,
yeah.
they
That's
would be way more apt to
certainly a
to
possibility,
favor
yeah,
their situation versus public safety.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, somebody
Well,
might
this-
open tap water and collect tap water.
I don't think they would go that far, but I think that
Maybe
they
the
would
tap
be.
water is worse.
It would be, you know what, today's not a good day, it's too hot today,
Yeah.
it just rained yesterday, it's,
Yeah.
you know, cause there's factors
Yeah,
that
oh, yeah,
play into
yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's too many people right now, right there, you know, it's a little too late this morning,
Mhm.
let's try it
Mhm.
again Thursday.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden they miss a week, and then it's the next week, and, you know, what happens if they miss a week? Really get your hand slapped a little
Yeah,
bit, and
yeah.
you don't do that again, you know,
Well,
but-
I'm glad you're taking that position then.
I mean, I think, I don't know, I mean, it's a pain in the butt to find somebody to do that
Yeah,
once a week, but I think to have them do it for us would be
yeah.
a disservice, I mean, I
I
don't,
don't know if we can tell that, it says we oversee it, does that mean? Because
Yeah,
now
that's
I
the
call
results.
them, I tell them, this is how much we're gonna charge, do you want us to do it for you? That's
Mhm.
what I call them and say, I don't
Well,
mandate that we're doing it,
that's
I
still
don't
giving
know.
them the option to do it themselves.
Right, and they usually choose us because it's a pain, but I don't know if we can tell them they can't, is what I'm
I guess-
wondering. That I have to look into.
yeah, I don't know, I mean,
We
it just
oversee
seemed,
it, but I don't know if that means we have to.
like I said, I only did it a few times, and one of
yeah,
the times I
get what
went
you-
there,
I know what you're saying,
and I
yeah.
wasn't, you know, he was very specific about where I should test and
Yeah.
why I wasn't at a good time, and
Yeah.
I was, you know, pretty much like, I mean, I hear you talking, but I don't
Yeah.
really care.
But we've had problems
Doing
in
it
the
anyways.
past, no doubt.
So,
It's-
they're
it
hiring
is-
their-
You bring out a good point, because that is a,
you know, if he's hiring some 17-year-old kid, he's gonna,
or
Yeah.
anybody, you
Say-
don't know, right,
you know,
I know
but-
where you're coming from, you know, and,
Yeah.
who knows, I mean, we can't
Yeah.
control that.
I just wanna make sure that we can
Mandate something.
mandate it, like,
Mhm.
I'll call them.
Well, if the beaches decide to hire individuals, you could have 3 different testers,
well,
3 samplers. You
yeah.
could have, somebody has to be an alternate in case somebody gets sick, which is a
But
possibility.
now you're talking about a major operation here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead
Well, it can
of
be
somebody
anybody,
running
it can be
around.
anybody at the beach, as long as they know where to test it.
Yeah,
What was the pay rate for that? I don't remember. It wasn't bad though for the run.
Well, it's $35 a day, then it's mileage,
Yeah.
and then
The
it's the
scanner
lab.
method, it's like a drive now, it used to be.
Yeah, it wasn't bad though. It was only a 20-minute ride, right?
Dave,
40.
Connecticut.
Yeah, it wasn't far. It was only 20 minutes on 395. I mean, it was about 2 hours of my life for $35. If you're retired or you got nothing going on, that's not a bad little $35 plus mileage for a quick ride to a few beaches. Really wasn't bad. Kept the dogs in the truck and
Yeah.
we just took a ride.
maybe we could simplify the whole process, eliminate mileage, just pay a flat fee.
I don't think we should
Yeah.
rock the boat right now.
Yeah.
I think we
Yep.
should keep it the way it
Yep.
is.
I would just have to increase the prices though,
Yeah.
for the beaches, because Microbeck increased their prices.
Yeah. Which that would be fine, I mean, that's their,
And like I
Their
said,
bill.
they will test too, but they charge a lot more than we charge.
right,
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
alright, I'll call them.
So we decided to do nothing with that, right?
I'll call and see if we can tell them we have to do it, just to make sure that's okay to say. Like, right now I give them a choice.
yeah, I think that we should probably vote on that too.
So right now you're giving the beach owners a choice?
and they're choosing
That's
to
how
have
I-
us just do
They're
it.
choosing to
Yeah.
have us done because it's a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Well, it says, public and semi-public beaches have to follow the regulation, not private.
Yeah.
What is, the terrace, what is that
They're
considered?
private.
That's private?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, no, it might be semi, right? Associations. Hotels, condo associations, camps.
Yeah, maybe association down there.
Yeah, it's an
It is an
association.
association, yeah.
So that might be semi-public,
Yeah.
but I'll find out exactly what we can.
Private would be like the guy, like, when I was a kid, there used to be a guy right next to the water slides that you could, he'd let you park and go swim, and there used to be, it was like $5 for a car, and
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
can remember,
that
you just go
was
swim off the dock,
Forges.
and
Yeah.
next door, it was.
Yeah,
um,
right.
And you just, so people would go to the water slides, when they got full, you would just
Right, go
park right next door and walk down and swim
Right.
at the beach there, but
Right.
it was just some guy's house, pretty much.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
part of the water slides. Obviously, that's long gone, but,
Right, right,
but that would have been a private beach, I assume,
yeah,
where you
yeah.
sort of take the risk yourself.
yeah.
Alright, so I'm not clear on where we are on item 6.
Well, I think maybe we should, make a motion to, for us to handle, what do you think?
Well, that's how we do it now, but let me call the state and see
Okay,
if we can tell
Just-
them they have no choice but to have us do it, cause
Okay.
I've always given them a choice, but I don't know if that's,
But we still have to find somebody to do it for us, cause the
Which I
person that
can,
didn't
I
want
can.
us, you
Yeah.
can find somebody.
who did it last year? She did it.
Oh, good,
Who did it last year?
Ann,
Okay, I guess.
so we have somebody kind of already.
who's very dependable.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that, you don't want a motion now?
No, I
Let
guess
Krista
not,
do
no,
her thing.
no.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go to, third-party inspection, transfer station, landfill.
Okay, so, it's time, that time of year again, for the transfer station and landfill to have their inspections. We hired, Bruce Haskell to do it in the past, he's excellent, so
Yeah.
he said he would do it. He increased his prices a little bit, we already included that in the budget.
Okay, good.
Not much, he got like $50, like he
Okay,
hardly
okay.
increased it, so it'd be $500 per inspection.
Okay,
And it only happens once a year for transfer station, twice, every 2 years for landfill.
okay.
Those are big, so we have to make a motion to approve that.
No?
It's in the, yeah, it's
Yeah.
already been approved.
I
so.
just-
Stay the course.
Okay, so now we move into, health agent update.
Okay, so, let's see, Linden Street, I'll be going over there in like, what's that, like 2 weekends. But the owner of the property hasn't really been responding to me. He did call me, but he didn't leave a voicemail actually, so I'll have to call him back when I leave here, probably tomorrow I'll call him. But I called and emailed him a couple of times and he hasn't been responding to me or the tenant, it seems like, so that might be an issue. And I know that she said there's now a railing outside on the balcony, but nothing else has been addressed at all. And the last she heard, the property manager didn't even know anything about it. And then the other one is Arnold Street, and me and Agnieszka were just talking about questions to email when we went to our seminar. The woman was really resourceful, so I'm gonna send her an email.
That's the heavy content.
Yes. And I think Mark went today, but I couldn't make it, so I think I'm gonna just see once I email.
Tomorrow maybe.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
He only works Tuesday and
That's
Thursday.
what I thought, but I thought she said. Just confused.
Oh.
once I email, I'm gonna see what she says, cause we're just trying to see how to approach him from a different perspective, because it doesn't seem like anything's been getting done at all. So, and then the one on Depot Street, I never heard back from the fire department, so I'm assuming everything's okay over there. And that's it.
What's on Depot Street?
What is the fire? What happened, the chimney fire?
Okay, yeah. And what's the issue?
I don't think there is any.
Oh,
I heard.
okay.
And they told me right away when it happened, and
Mhm.
he was just gonna let me know if I should go over or not. So,
You never did.
no.
Hopefully they were able to fix everything and it wasn't too much water damage or anything like that.
Okay, we have next up,
Thank you.
we have bills and warrants.
Corey, did you sign them?
Yeah, they're expensive.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a
You
motion?
don't, I don't think you need to make one,
Okay.
just review it.
All right.
I didn't see tonnages.
No, you didn't.
Okay,
I have not gotten the bill yet for January, so I just called him today.
okay.
Before we get a motion, could I make a couple of
We don't need a motion.
Yeah,
questions,
Yeah.
suggestions?
yeah,
On the third page, which is the long list of items,
yeah,
there are a couple of hand corrections.
yes.
May I suggest that we initial those in the future?
Well, that's from June. That's from,
We'll beat up on our body. And the other one is check remit. Is there a check number with that?
what are you looking at? Oh.
Same page.
That's where they pick the address off their screen. That's just like a reminder for them.
Oh, it's not a money check,
No.
it's a check.
They're checks, but it's just them picking the right address, so I just have to give them a heads
Okay.
up.
You don't need a motion?
No,
Good thing is not to question Jean.
no, Jean knows what she's doing. If there was something that needed to be added to that,
Mm-hmm.
it would be added to it.
Right. Okay, so, move on. We have tonnages, and we don't have that, huh?
Okay.
Okay, so we can skip right over
Well,
that.
it looks fine to me.
Yeah, I guess
Isn't that
so.
great?
And we have
Daily
Good
approval
work,
of
guys.
minutes.
You got it?
I need the last week, the last.
Oh, okay, I can drop it off tomorrow.
We have approval of minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from January 27, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Motion's approved, minutes approved. And old business, new business.
I have a question, did you guys go to any DT?
Any, what?
NEDT, they're gonna do a little
Oh,
tour
any,
there.
any DT,
No, they did not.
No. I got some, we did have a conference call, last week.
Yes.
And it was pretty good, I guess, about recycling, so
Mhm.
I think, moving forward with a bid, it would definitely be in our interest to get a couple more packers for for the cardboard and for plastics,
Mhm.
especially, single-use plastics. I think a campaign for limiting single-use plastics would be good, going back to reusable water bottles and rather than tons of water bottles. Cause there's no end for that right now, there's no real use for recycle plastic at this point. So that's gonna be a problem that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. Paper is a problem right now, but it looks like there'll be some solutions coming up in the next, I think she even said the next 6 months. Could be some solutions to the paper problem right now. It's just, nobody's really taking it. They're taking it, but not a lot. And then glass is like, there's nowhere to recycle glass.
They are using glass too.
No.
What'd you say?
Yeah, like down south, they've been tumbling it and
Tumblers, yeah.
using it for other purposes, but up north here, there's nothing that we can really do with glass, so. Glass is not really a great item to be recycling right now, so. I think we're still gonna separate it and still gonna recycle it, but it's costing money. There's no real end to what we're gonna do with glass. There's no solution in the works for glass. There's no real solution in the works for plastics right now. Paper, there is some work being done. So that's the recyclables. It's not looking good, but if we can get pack 'em and we can compress more, that's less trips over the road, we save some fees
Sure,
there.
Sure.
Plus it'd be better for the environment to,
Sure.
if you can do one truck instead of 10
Mhm.
over the road with a load of plastic, that seems smart.
We have, yep.
I'm not sure what the
I'm-
rules are for.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
My name's Ed Pasek with Waste Management.
Ed, okay, yes.
And, as you're discussing some of the options for.
You wanna come up here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, come
Um, as you're discussing some of the options for different, transfer station alternatives, when it comes to recycling, I mean, first of all, everybody's in the same boat, so it's nothing, unique to the town here. There are perhaps a few different options, so, one thing that you may wanna consider is certainly you have the option to separate everything at the source as you are right now.
Yeah.
And you could do different packers for cardboard and plastic, and I think that was something that.
Compactors, we had
Exactly.
discussed that, right.
But another option could be, and I'm not sure that this would work or not, but it would require a little bit of analysis, and I'd be happy to take this on if you would provide the information, is to go with a single stream option. So what the single stream option would be is it would address some of the issues that you're talking about as far as an outlet for some of these unique sources, the unique material streams.
Mhm.
And what would happen is you would combine everything into one compactor, or you can get maybe two compactors. And you get the benefit of the compaction, you have a larger container, and now you reduce your hauls, and you can bring it to a facility that would take all of that material, so you're not in a situation where you're necessarily looking for an outlet for an individual material that's low demand at the moment. You would probably pay more, it depends on what you're paying right now, I'm not sure. But you would probably pay a little bit more because have the convenience, if you will, for the service. But the advantage could be, and I'm not sure, it would depend on sort of what you would save on the hauls. So you
Transportation.
definitely save on transportation.
Mhm.
The question remains, would you save enough to offset what
Right.
the processing might be?
Right.
I know another advantage though would be is that you could have the material hauled 5 days a week instead of just 4 right now. So I know that's something that guys at the transfer station had mentioned before, that Friday was sometimes a source of frustration. 'Cause it
Wouldn't
couldn't be
that
hauled.
increase our transportation
Although-
costs though?
Our conversation with her said that Fridays,
Fridays,
we,
yeah.
we would be
That's
able,
right.
it's coming up, they're
Oh,
gonna
okay.
be having more employees there, or at least a couple. If there's certain circumstances, we could call ahead and we would be
Yeah.
able to empty a container
Okay,
on a Friday now, but
Right.
that would be like, we would have to sort of, it'd have to be more planned, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right, and usually that happens around the holiday,
Yeah,
you
that's,
know, that type of thing. Dick would know best, but,
Yeah, around the holidays, it's a nightmare out there, but like I'm saying, for them to pull out on a Friday, we would have to probably call our BP now to
Mhm.
see if they have a truck available.
right,
Cause that's why we give them the pickups the day ahead of time, so they can schedule their,
right.
their pickups. I mean, I don't know if they'd be able to come in and get that one container or whatever we would have. I mean,
yeah, so I mean, with the single stream, you'd have the option of it's just a regular business day, so if you guys knew, ahead of time, or, you could just let everybody, let the hauler know that,
if we had one to be pulled out, we would call them on a Thursday. They should be able to put it in their schedule. That could work,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be calling Friday, we'd be
That's something to
calling
think
on
about.
Thursday.
Thursday.
And they set up their schedule for the
That's
next
right.
day,
Right,
they'd be able to pull it out.
right.
And so the idea of single stream would, the definite pro would be less trips over the road,
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
I mean, the plastic, right, I can't even imagine, like, they're hauling hard, the
It's-
container
it's
is the
probably-
weight.
It's probably not even a ton.
I know,
Right, the
yeah,
plastic's like
yeah.
barely nothing.
Right,
uh,
right.
You know, those bottles, milk jugs, I mean, there's so much air.
Takes
Yeah,
up
that's
so
what
much
it-
space and there's almost no weight to it.
Yeah, I mean, we
Mhm.
crush everything, but by the time you throw it away, it sort of inflates a little bit again, I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
so
Yeah.
just packing that alone would be,
yeah. You
And
just-
cardboard too, loose
yeah,
cardboard takes
all
up a
the
lot of
corrugated,
space.
you get all the air in there.
We just, have to look at the offset, like you say, the cost offset.
Mhm.
Also, we'd have to do some wiring too down there.
Yeah, so,
Run
when,
some lines.
one of the things that we looked into was the possibility of running off of generators.
But we could actually make a cut in the road,
Mhm.
just cut the pavement, excavate maybe 2 feet down.
Mhm.
Wouldn't take that much, you didn't have to go that deep, it would be in conduit anyway, and bring it up on the other side, bring the power up there.
I mean, it's up to you,
Yeah,
how,
I
however you
mean,
wanna do it,
that
but
to
yeah.
me would be more feasible, to me, I think, rather than a generator,
Yeah.
purchasing a generator and.
But there are some problems, and I get the drawings to show that there's stuff buried out there that
Yeah,
you gotta have someone
there's sewer
engineer
and
it
water, of
first.
course.
And you can't just run it off, tap
Well-
it into one of the existing compactors, it's gotta be its own thing.
No, we can run power from another compactor. Well, it depends on, it depends on, what the draw is on the
That's what I was thinking.
compactors too.
Mhm.
I don't know what the draw would be on these compactors.
I mean, it should be, I would imagine, any compactors that we're proposing would be comparable to what's on site right now.
Yeah,
That's 3-phase high amp,
yeah, it's 3-phase, yeah. But,
right, George?
No.
as far as, being able to do that, we could certainly do that, we can cut the road and,
Mhm.
run the power over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's
up-
our responsibility, I
right.
understand.
It's up to you, I'm just trying to present different options, cause they
Yeah.
could be at a lower cost, or it could maybe be at a convenience that might work for you too.
Right.
I mean, just, one of the things about the generator is that, it's something that, you wouldn't be running it all the time, so I mean, if it's
Right.
something that, I mean, I don't know if you would need it for other applications or something like that, but,
My issue with that though is, now we have to bring in propane, to run the generator. It just, I don't know.
Seems like
You
another
know?
step, right? I mean, it's certainly
Yeah.
easier if you can just wire it and pull
Yeah.
the switch.
agreed, yeah.
Yeah, we'd
That-
have
that
to
would
do
be-
some research.
That'd be
on
the
that,
easiest
yeah.
to do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Single stream, it's hard to get, like, it took a long time, I think, for towns to get used to separating stuff. Going single stream could save us a lot of money, I mean, it could, but
And the other thing, yeah, I mean, and I guess the other thing too is you might see a higher diversion rate of material out of your trash. If it's less of a hassle for people to have to separate everything and have, 3 or 4 buckets at home, and just you have the trash bucket and you have your recycling
Mhm.
bucket, and it's really easy, it's real
Sure.
simple. So that's a possibility.
and then they handle it
Yeah.
at the facility, they separate at the facility.
Exactly, yeah.
And that would compact glass,
Yeah.
plastic,
Yeah, so you,
everything.
so you take your glass, your tin, your cardboard, your mixed paper, all the various things that you're currently recycling,
Mhm.
it would all go in one receptacle.
And that get compacted?
It would all be compacted, yeah. So, I mean, you may wanna, you could do one probably, or 2 might be a better, sort of like the way you do with the
Right.
trash right
Two,
now.
we would
Two.
need two,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think that would be the way to go,
Sure.
cause that way you're never gonna be without one,
Sure,
and, that'd probably be the best
Yeah.
option.
well, that's interesting.
When we start doing bids, we should probably get a price analysis on the options, on a couple different options then.
So one thing that I had done, and I had presented to Kristen, I could actually share it with you guys, is, I know you said you're working with procurement right now, but just to kinda, actually, I could just pass these around if you want. The last page has the, that's based off of last year, or last bids. But if you go to the last page, I put together a, kind of like a price analysis. So it's like a price, let me rephrase that, it's like a price page.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so,
kind of like an estimate type of.
so this is actually in Excel, and Kristen has it. And so you can edit it, for your RFP release. And, what this does though, what's nice is that for the town's purposes, for the board here, you're able to, it really simplifies the comparison process. And for the bidders, it's nice because it really summarizes exactly the scope of the work that you guys are looking for. So when you get the responses, everything's apples to apples. You know, it's not like you get all these different bid packages that are written out, and you have to kind of decipher, okay, well, they're saying they'll do this or that, but what does it really mean? You're sort of setting the terms right here. And so after I read this and kind of spoke to everybody, this, to the best of my knowledge, kind of encapsulates all the different costs that would potentially go into it. And so what it does here is, like, you'll see, like, you'll have each individual service listed that you're asking for, and then you'll have sort of like a multiplier. So if it's like a monthly type thing, like a rental, you'll have times 12. But in other cases where there's a tonnage factor, you know, you just put in the tonnage. Now, obviously the tonnage fluctuates a little bit year to year, but you're just gonna put in a tonnage that's pretty close based off of historical averages, and you know that becomes your comparison point for all your different bids. And so some of those boxes that you see, they're the ones that are in gray. I didn't have that information, but you know, if I did, I could plug it in for you, or you certainly have it, you have the
Yeah.
form, you can do it as well.
Well, Kristen's not really doing anything anyhow, so.
From the way it sounded, she's looking for more work, so.
I mean, we might get her a helper, so she's gonna have all this extra.
Well, I
time.
think this might help a little bit, so, I don't know. And then, you know, I think what I'd also done is, I only have one copy here, but, Dick, I think I sent it to you too. I had made a few suggestions on that, but that's sort of like the final draft, if you will. But I could just share this, I only have one
I
copy
think you
here.
have that, Kristen, right? With the
Um,
comments off on the side?
So I just put some comments there, it's a little bit small, but you
No?
can,
Okay, if you don't.
so you can take a look at that and.
You also, if I remember correctly, mentioned that if you took a container and replaced it at that same time, that it was cheaper than taking the container, dumping it and bringing it back.
That's right, so I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the comments on there that you'll see is that there's some little statements here, little specifications that they sound very minor, but I picked up on that and I thought, well, you know what, let me add some insight, and that was one of them. So there's one that says all the containers must be painted brown and have a ladder. And so, you know, I'm not sure from you guys' perspective, like if the ladder is really important or not, like on the open tops.
On the open top, well,
Do you-
not from the top, but from
Yeah.
the bottom one, we do have a ladder that's floating around there.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that's what I was gonna suggest, if you guys have a ladder on site, like one of those, sometimes they have like those steps that you can
Yeah.
wheel around,
Right.
that kind of thing. You guys invest in that, or if you already have it, even better. Now what happens is, that's not really I mean, it's available on a roll-off container, but it's not really a standard feature. So here's the thing, if you guys have containers that are dedicated to your site, like the compactors would be, and what would happen is, we come pick up the container, go to the dump or the recycling center, and then we have to come and make a return trip back. So all that time gets factored into our cost. But if you're dealing with an open top container, and those are like standardized containers, so we show up with an empty one on the truck, on the back of the truck, drop it off, and then we pick the full one up, leave, dump it, and then the truck goes to another job, never has to come back. So something very small like that.
Yeah,
and
that's not small.
In the specs, it may seem
Yeah.
small, like, oh, it has to have the ladder, but the reality is that if that's not super important to the town, then you might be able to save yourself some money on the bid.
Okay, well, but on the other hand, okay, so it comes in with an empty container,
Yeah,
drops it off, picks up the full one.
right.
Now, doesn't he take that and move it out and drop it and pick up the empty and put it back where that one was?
Yeah, so what would happen is,
Around.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yes, right, it's like a few step process.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So he'll,
No, the way I understood it, he was gonna pick up the full one and just go.
I was trying to simplify it, but.
Okay,
But you're,
well,
you are you're absolutely correct though.
okay,
Yeah, so, if it was like a construction site, and sometimes you can have the flexibility to drop it off
Right,
anywhere,
right.
that's really nice.
Mhm.
But what you're saying is absolutely true, he would actually take the empty one, drop it on the ground,
Mhm.
take the full one, pull it out of place,
mhm,
Mhm.
put it on the ground,
Mhm.
then pick up the empty
Mhm.
one, put it back in place,
Right.
then pick up the
Yeah.
full one and leave.
Right, right.
So
Like I
those,
said,
those are all the steps, but even though, and it does take time, you know, you're talking probably about 15-minute process to do all
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
It's a heck of a lot quicker than having to drive all the way back
Transport,
down.
right, yeah.
And there's enough space there for that, right, for the
Oh,
moving
yeah.
around, dropping more.
yeah,
Because
it can be done, but I'm just saying, I mean, I wish we had the room where he could just take it and drop it
Right,
someplace
right.
and pick up the full one and go, but we don't
That's
Small
have,
puzzle.
we don't have that much room there.
Our guys do, I mean, that's what they do though, I mean,
Mhm.
they're
Okay.
used to that.
Maybe you could do that, Dick.
What's that?
All you need to do is create one extra opening, and you drop it in there.
That's
you
right.
Pick up the other one and leave.
Yeah, if we get rid of that ledge there, get rid of that lawn.
Yeah, yeah, we had talked
Put a
about
little
that.
deck out and put it right at the end of the deck, that'd be perfect.
What I'm saying is it may be possible.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, if we dug that thing out,
Yeah.
it could be done that way, yes. Where you could drop it off and then just pick
Now,
up the full and go.
There's a sign on each one of them. The sign could be a magnetic sign, couldn't it? So that you can just pull the sign off here and plug it on another one? Cardboard, plastics.
Well, I thought it was going into the compactors.
Yeah, it would be going into.
If you go to the compactors, you don't need a sign.
No, you don't need a sign.
Well, but I'm not focused on compactors. I'm
You're
focused on the
focused
ones
on
that are there now.
Recycling, yeah.
Yeah, but the separate goes for,
Yeah, if we do a new bid, it would be different
Yeah.
anyways, it would be
Basic,
different
whatever.
containers.
And it wouldn't be an open compact if you do separate, but you can't have them open. You still have to have the doors to shut them up. It wouldn't be an open container for plastic.
I
and-
understand.
Yeah.
yeah, they throw over the top. Question, I don't know if I heard this right, but, what do you call about, not the wall board, the,
Sign? What do you?
no, someone rips the wall
Oh, sheetrock.
Sheetrock.
Oh,
Yeah.
sheetrock.
out. Do you take sheetrock?
Well, so we,
Because I,
so it-
Yeah.
I
it's more
thought I
like,
heard that you did.
the question is, do you take it? So,
Yeah.
We do.
so now does that go right, where does that get?
Not as construction
It's
waste,
the
but a
open-
homeowner.
open
Yeah, the
container.
homeowner, yeah. No, we don't, the construction companies don't come in.
No.
Yeah, but like if
It's
some,
open container.
but if somebody had wood and sheetrock and other demolition materials from home
Right.
improvement project,
There's an
yes.
open container there. for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it goes in one of the open, one next to the metal. Takes
Okay.
wood and mattresses and
Okay,
miscellaneous.
so
Yeah.
that's an important point, so that was one of the things I might have even put in my questions for you, is that, you know, is, construction demolition material accepted? So that's something that would be a separate, it has to go to a different location, it can't go to the same place as the trash.
Okay, how about mattresses, that type of thing?
Mattresses are, can currently be brought to be disposed of as trash, but there is some talk, I believe, in the DEP right now that may, come down the road where it could become a waste ban item.
Really, so I'm gonna have more mattresses in my front yard, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yeah,
So get rid of your mattresses soon,
right,
before
yeah.
that happens.
Exactly, it'd be a good
I
place for
found a
them.
nice tire in my front yard
Yeah.
yesterday, yeah, that was very nice.
Yeah,
I live right on Route 16.
Oh, okay.
About a mile from the transfer station, so.
yeah. No,
I
it's-
get the excess. I'm gonna put a dumpster right there, I think.
Roll
Put
it
an
out.
open.
Just put it right in the
open top.
RFP.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then there's one other thing I just wanted to mention on this is that, so I mean, you can put your, the RFP proposal, out and, but you may wanna just make it clear, and I made that, suggestion in there as well, that you are open to other, alternatives.
Yes.
So, just, so that way it kinda gives you guys all the options.
I think you also suggested that we take the free dumpster for the town hall
Mhm.
and list that as a separate paid item.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause here's the reality, is that, I mean, everything is, There's really nothing free, I mean, it's gonna be built into the cost of the rest of it, so I mean, if it's important for budgetary purposes, like if you don't have the ability to have that as a separate line item or separate, you know, that's fine, you know, but I was just saying, it would give you guys a little bit more transparency into seeing all the costs for what they really are. And so I think I even put that in that price sheet as well. One thing I don't think I did add in that is a number for, or a line for the construction material.
Well, the thing is, with the sheetrock, for example, that would have to go into a separate container?
It should be going in a separate container, because that's waistband.
The way we're doing it now
Yeah.
would be fine, how we
Oh,
have the
we'd be
separate.
mixing with the wood and.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That, yeah, so,
Construction waste.
Big pieces of plastic toys and stuff like that.
It's in there, yeah. It goes in with plastic, it goes in with mattresses, a little bit of wood, trim off windows or something somebody brings.
so you're
in.
putting the mattresses in with the construction
Yeah.
material?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
alright.
Is that okay?
And big
it's-
weird
It's
items.
working, I mean, wherever,
Well, it
wherever
works.
it's
No,
going,
I mean,
they're
I-
taking it.
Yeah.
Take
You,
it.
you had mentioned that the construction material has to be kind of separate and
It
go
is.
to a different location, so.
That's right.
So, if we were to throw mattresses in there, would that be acceptable?
It sounds to me like here's what would happen, is that you can't take a load of the construction material to a place that accepts solid waste, but wherever that construction material is being taken,
Mhm.
must be taking must be taking mattresses.
Okay,
So that's how it sounds to me.
okay,
And it's probably going to a transfer station somewhere,
yeah.
that's my guess, and they're sorting it out, and that's how it's working out.
Because we'll get like sheetrock, thing is, if somebody pushed a wall, broke a piece of the wall away, they're putting in the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they don't have a lot of it, I mean,
It's
I'm not
just
saying.
from residential.
Yeah, it's just
use,
small,
yeah.
small pieces, I mean, it's like the back of a truck that's full of, and that may not full, not a truck, but like a station wagon.
Sure.
And then that's all they have, it's not like a big,
Yeah.
big dump stick truck coming in and dumping it.
So I guess, anybody else have anything that, like to bring forward?
Not yet, I don't think about that. Right. That's gonna be going. to
Anyone
bid
in the
soon.
audience? No? Okay. Well, I guess, do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, what are we doing?
What else we got?
We have a
More?
letter from the E DEP.
Well, this is, yeah, that's what I asked you, if we had anything else. You
Yeah.
didn't hear me?
Yeah, and
Oh, okay.
before I can say anything, you say, let's have a motion to adjourn, hey.
All right, thank you very much again.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Right,
Really
Good seeing you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been a huge help, last couple meetings, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Ed.
seeing you.
Yeah.
So we have this letter from the DEP, and Envirotrack has some issues to resolve. Those on page 1 are, I see as Envirotrack issues. They are, or were, doing something which they were not measuring properly. And so he pointed that out on those first two items, 2 bullets.
Okay, so, what does that mean for us?
That we need to point to them for the next round of tests, that they are not doing the items correctly. The 1,4-dioxane and the arsenic measurements. I think the arsenic's been corrected. The last one I saw was down in the proper measurement range.
When I say for us, I mean, what does that mean for the town? Does that put any
Those
kind
two
of
items it
burden
doesn't.
on the town?
No.
It doesn't, because if their analysts, if they come up with something that's, could be toxic or whatever, and pollute the ground, then who pays that? That's my concern.
So,
Okay.
so
See,
what's going on here? So this is, it appears, so DEP reviewed all of our data and
Yes.
determined that we weren't doing it right, or the company that we were hiring
well, it
wasn't
wasn't
doing it
us
right?
not doing it right, it's the
Right, the company that we had hired. Now, were they should know how to do it, so was there something wrong with the setup, like our The testing wells, are they not deep enough? Is that the problem? Or is it
No.
a,
They were not using sensitive enough measuring techniques. So they weren't measuring low enough. The concentration is lower than they were capable of measuring with whatever technique they were using.
so that's 100% on EnviroTrack?
That's what it sounds like to me.
So, quick question, why does DEP, like, how come this is just coming to a head? Why is this,
Well,
Unfortunately, it started off with me asking the question, why are we measuring in March arsenic when we already measure arsenic twice a year?
so what, okay.
And that led to a review of why are we measuring arsenic in March. And he's saying that it's still needed for reasons not at all clear to me. But he's the boss.
now, what, something else that bothers me here is this last sentence.
What side of the page you on? Go back here, yeah, we need to get to that. That is something that we need to do, that's,
What is it, can you explain it?
I don't know where the last sentence is.
Well, the result of this analysis, it
Ah.
says, should be included in the
Okay,
report
that's-
meeting. Go ahead.
Yes, there is a seep that we monitor twice a year,
Mm-hmm.
and he's saying that that seep is not being monitored in the right places, and I don't know who owns that.
You don't get anything for nothing.
Well, but somebody's supposed to be measuring the seep, and they aren't picking the right place to do it, according to him.
This is,
And so he wants to see the results of the measurement, and that's the 14 days.
honestly, when I see DEP,
Okay.
Right. So how come they never, I just don't get why all of a sudden this is all, the last so many years is now a big deal?
Right.
How come this, like, they didn't never notice this before now? Why just all of a sudden now is this a big deal?
I do not have the answer. I can tell you.
why was it brought to them? That's what I wanna know.
No, the March arsenic is what brought it to their attention.
Yeah, but who brought it to their attention?
I did, and I take responsibility for that.
See, we have to operate as a board here. We cannot do it any other way.
Right.
And I'm worried about, you know, what this means for us, for the town and down the road, whether or not we have to do some kind of elaborate testing or excavation or.
Fix or something? I mean, if
I
there's
don't know.
something wrong, it's good to fix it, but this
Well,
could
of
be
course, but
incredibly
I mean,
costly. This
yeah.
could be,
Bruce is gonna be doing the he found that originally.
Okay.
I think it was in his report.
Oh, he found that?
I think he found that there was puddling or something, cause they have to take pictures.
There
and
is
everything.
way up, let's see,
but that was a high water year when we
Furthest
had
well-
that problem. That was a really, remember that?
Well,
We
is
had that?
I think it's still there though. So I
Yeah.
think,
There's like a little stream or a little brook that comes down there.
Yeah, right next to it anyways.
Right.
so I think that area is where they wanted samples done
Yeah,
yearly.
okay.
I think landfill inspections are twice.
I mean, if this doesn't amount to anything more than that, that's fine.
They
And that's
want
good.
They want
Right.
samples.
It's
Right.
good in a
And
way
we'll know.
because you know, but,
What's in there. But he's gonna be doing another, inspection soon,
okay,
as soon as I get a contract to him.
yeah.
Wants to see the sign.
But I'm gonna send this letter to him, cause his report is mentioned on here,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe he can steer
Yeah.
us in the right
Okay.
direction.
We need, some steering for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll do that, I'll send that to him
You know,
tomorrow.
that 14-day limitation kind of bothers me a little bit.
That's just after we get the report.
No,
Okay, so
no,
we have to submit that, is that what it
I
is?
think we have
That's what he
14 days to do it.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to
Yeah.
me. We have 14 days to do it.
No,
From February 12th?
no.
No, look in the back, Corey,
The very last sentence.
last sentence.
It's the way it's written. he wants the results of the analysis included in the report.
But
And
we,
he wants the
but it
report-
says 14 days.
He
Of
wants the
receipt.
report within 14 days after you have the report.
Oh, within
You can't
receipt.
give it to him earlier.
Within receipt.
Okay, so within 14 days.
I don't know if he meant receipt of this letter or receipt of that report.
Receipt of the report.
Okay, okay.
Alright, we can,
So that we can do.
Okay, I will contact Bruce.
Okay.
Now, how about EnviroTrack and these two items? Can we send this, copy of this, or extract this to EnviroTrack for the June measurements?
Actually, they're doing arsenic in March, right?
In other words, to inform them that we need, they need different
They need a more
testing
sensitive,
materials or testing,
a more sensitive
More
test
sensitive
protocol.
So I
testing.
will send this to my
Well,
contact.
but do you wanna send the whole thing or just that?
I can send the first
I would
page.
just send this, just a
Yeah.
little piece there. And the third one on the back page too, about the alkalinity.
Three of them. That's- okay.
yeah, it sounds like it's their procedure that wasn't the correct
Right.
procedure.
Yeah, they weren't using the right test protocol. For some reason,
Hmm.
maybe it's something left over from 10 years ago or something, and no one ever went back and checked.
Mm. Alright, so yeah, I guess you gotta contact
One more
Bruce
item, and I'm
and
done.
try.
Okay, go ahead, sure.
The no mowing, we're talking about, or reducing mowing,
Mm-hmm. We're gonna put tomato plants there?
we could.
We sell vegetables.
I like the cherry tomatoes myself.
Alright, I'll eat a couple of those every time. There you go.
All right, my suggestion is that we agree that we wanna go ahead on it. And then I'll work with Dick, George, Ray, and Ron, and Bert.
You have helpers now?
Well,
You hired helpers?
In order to do this, it will take some effort.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
And so
It's-
I'll work it out with them, and I'll come
Uh-huh.
back with a formal proposal of time. And as I looked over the site, some of the top areas need some topsoil added.
Uh-huh. So they're gonna be planting also?
We're giving something else to do.
I don't know if that's within there.
Well, all I-
Do you is that what you're doing? You're volunteering
All
to
I-
do
all I-
that?
Yeah, what do you think,
It's
George?
not in the description.
I'm asking for consulting input.
Yeah, it isn't, it's not in our description.
I mean.
We're not farmers.
You're well within your right to say no.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you
other
know,
duties as assigned, just
Yeah.
remember that.
I can recall somebody last meeting volunteering to do this.
Is this like a sample or?
Was it in the meetings, the minutes?
You doing a little test area?
We could,
Yeah,
I
but
thought
we're
that's
just
what we
doing a
talked
test
about.
area.
Yeah, we were supposed to do a test area, see how
We can
that
do
works
that.
out. Yeah, why don't we do that?
yeah, so I'll come back with specifics on
Mhm.
what it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I'd say
and
let's do test.
Okay.
the amount of labor it's gonna take.
What do we wanna
My
test? The Dutch white clover seeds or the creeping pollux?
The cherry tomatoes.
Sorry.
No, you don't want cherry tomatoes, they'll be last summer.
We want, right, these are.
I'm inclined to go with the
annuals.
clover, Dutch white clover.
That's your,
I think it's more aggressive in terms of coverage and keeping grass out.
yeah, and the other stuff.
In the
would-
first year, we mow right over it. Cause it's not high enough to get cut if the mower's set high.
Right.
We
So
could
we'll
turn
come-
that into an Ivy League school.
Yeah,
at
so we'll
some
come back
point.
also with a proposal on how we're going to mow it. And it may be hire a separate contractor or,
Well,
I mean, so
I
we mow
think-
it now regularly because it's a pain in the butt, so I mean, even if we do something different and we mow it twice a year or once a year versus
yeah,
every 2 weeks, where
yeah.
it's considerably better.
And I did talk with the fire chief and he's not happy with the thought of not mowing the lawn.
he's not happy with,
The thought of not mowing.
Oh.
He wants it mowed so that it isn't a fire hazard.
yeah, well, I can understand that.
I was trying not to understand it.
What's he talking about, the field or the little bit of grass that's around the compact.
And a little
Fire
bit of
chief.
grass.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
field's
we-
only done
the
twice a
field's
year.
only
Yeah,
done twice a
no, he's
year.
talking
We're
about
not
the
talking
grass
about the
along
field. We are
Oh.
not talking the
No.
field. We're
You've
talking
never
the
seen
slope area.
grass high there.
No.
Yeah, I don't get that, fire chief.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think that,
Yeah.
So are we okay with going ahead? We'll come back with a
Sure.
formal proposal.
Sure.
yeah, I think the Dutch
Well,
white
the same
clover.
one as part-time.
Yeah, I'd say let's try that, try that. See what that does.
Okay, so,
One other item?
you have another item?
Yeah, I've been doing a little research. This is the result of the research on drawings
Okay.
for what's up there.
Yeah,
Today I was finally able to get back to McGuire for an as-built drawing.
okay.
And they're off researching. I was finally able to find the number of the drawing because no McGuire drawing has any number at all. And that's the only way they file, project number.
Okay.
And so I went back through the files again, I think it was yesterday, and found on what was shipped to us for drawings for approval,
Mm-hmm.
had a little note up here that said, this is our project number.
Mm.
And that was the only place that I can find that
So-
number. And they're
so-
off researching to see if they have it.
So this was a design-built operation, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah,
So they're probably not, the plans are probably not accurate.
probably too. That's why I'm trying to get as-built.
Mm.
But I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff buried out there.
What's out there besides sewer and water?
There's a long section of PVC tubing for some reason. This 2,000-gallon tank, the
Okay,
septic
so
tank.
there's a septic system and there's a leach field.
Ah,
That's right.
the way they referred to it was, it's a flared output.
Okay. Under the pavement, is it?
Yeah,
It is under the pavement?
yeah, well, it's not on top, so it has to be under, right?
Well,
And
I
I'm
mean,
not
it
being-
could be in,
not-
no,
Off
it
to
could
the
be in
side.
another location
There's grassy
further
areas
down,
on
I
the
don't know,
side.
you know, in a
Yeah.
grassy
Yeah,
area.
cause that
I don't know.
landfill wasn't, that whole space isn't a landfill, like
Right.
I can remember we have to drive through and in, so they could do a leach field right at the top, right there where
They
the
could.
grass is,
Yeah, but they probably did it under the pavement and
and just went
used
over it.
stone and, you know, built a field underneath.
But it doesn't
Right.
show it, it only shows the
Right.
tank.
So we don't know where the leach is.
Yeah, and
Where
then
is the tank? Is that the manhole?
The two manholes out there,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh,
And then there's
Has that
a,
ever been pumped?
no, because of the
Where's
leach
the other
field,
It's in front
the
of,
thing they call the flared output.
Okay.
the 30
Apparently it's
yard.
taking the water and just dispersing it.
Yeah,
And there's
almost
not-
like a cesspool type.
Probably not a lot of
Yeah.
waste really there. you
No,
know,
there
it's
isn't,
what
there
it
isn't.
3 days a week and they're not like
Oh, that's the
showering and doing
culvert.
laundry,
Right,
so it's
right.
just,
In front of the compact,
Right.
that's
And
just a
then there's
culvert.
another
That's just a
pipe
water
coming
line.
in
One knows that one
Bridal
and
Street.
the
And the other one
Coming
doesn't
in
say
and
sewer,
stopping
it says
in
electric.
the middle of the parking
The other
area.
one's,
And I've
The
never
one in
seen
front of
anything
the
out there.
compactor B says
But
electric.
every single
Oh, okay.
drawing, including
Okay.
before the concrete pads were there for the compactors, every single drawing shows this thing coming in from the street.
It could be surface water too. I don't know if
It's a
that's,
pipe of some kind,
yeah, but it could be collecting surface water, maybe running it off somewhere.
yeah. But I've never seen anything in the
Yes.
middle of the parking lot, other than dirt.
could just dead end from years ago, maybe you
Yeah.
know, in the 80s they had a little shack right there and that's what they were using and they had
What I'm saying is digging in there
Mm-hmm.
is gonna need some analysis and engineering work before we start.
If we choose to go that,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean, if we were digging for, electrical, you don't have to go very deep.
Yeah,
You
and the
know.
electrical that goes out there is conduit buried in concrete.
Oh, that's
So if you hit that, you'll know you hit something.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what you. we
And that's
probably
pretty
have to-
straightforward.
Right. Look, if that is a leaching area down under that pavement, then it has to be pretty deep down. It can't be, it's not like a foot or two. It's gotta be deep down,
oh yeah,
because trucks go over it,
Yep.
everything goes over it.
yeah,
yeah.
It would certainly crush,
oh
you know, the,
yeah, good trust too.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
they
no
would,
drawing that I have seen shows that field.
yeah.
It just shows the tank.
Well, that's interesting. That is interesting. That's good to know. You did one
Anyway,
good thing.
That's on one thing tonight.
right, let's keep that ball rolling. Alright. Good stuff.
Okay, we all set?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome,
Excellent.
thank you. Okay,
Oh man, what are we gonna do with that, huh?
okay, do we have a motion to oh, no, we don't.
Next meeting.
I keep forgetting.
One more thing. One more-
Thank God for her.
We have 2 visitors out here.
Yeah.
Do they have
Yeah.
any-
Well, that's what I asked. Do you have anything to add to us, for us?
I don't,
Oh, you know, you're just here for the fun of it, right?
yes.
Good. We do have a good time here.
And we do have an opening.
I'm Evan Turner. I was here to talk about solar.
Oh, well, if you'd like,
Perfect. All
yeah, sure. Evan,
Evan, E-V-A-N.
EVAN.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So I've been talking with Matt, the administrator, about doing solar PV work on the town properties as a group. Several, the school, a number, there's a pump house property right next to the landfill that you've just discussed at length.
What company are you with? I'm sorry.
I'm with the solar development company that did the project down on Wallop Lake Road that went through permitting just this last year
Okay,
and is going into construction in 2 months,
okay,
about.
yeah.
So we went through with the town body for that project, and that's a standard green field. Will used to be trees, will then become a field site. But as I was talking with Matt, and we were looking at some other town properties that are very advantageous for solar development going forward. We've been discussing that for a number of months, and the landfill property naturally came up because that is a large, I guess, policy push and objective for the Commonwealth as a whole. They like seeing solar on landfills. So eventually I was directed to you guys as the authority on the landfill, as well as several other groups like the school committee for the school property, then the town proper for some of the other, I guess, unobligated parcels that the town owns outright without a board controlling them. So that'd be a Board of Selectmen discussion. So they suggested I come drop by you guys and talk a little bit about what that might look like and address any concerns that I'm knowledgeable enough to talk about the solar on landfill process, of which I've done a few.
Anybody have?
So we, was it 3 or 4 years ago, we had a solar company did come in
Okay.
and pitch an idea, and one of the problems was they weren't willing to guarantee the integrity of the cap. If anything was to happen, they weren't willing to guarantee that they would remove the solar panels and infrastructure and put it back at no cost if there was a problem with the cap, or the monitoring wells or anything that, any work that we would need to do up there, cause obviously you put solar panels up there, it doesn't leave a lot of room for heavy machinery or anything to get through like that. So there was that hindrance with the previous conversation that we had. And now we sort of have this new potential difficulty here in relation to the DEP thing.
What you just had the discussion about.
Yeah, so I'm not really positive what direction this is gonna take, but this could also impact the cap and the landfill in some way. And this, I don't think we're gonna have really figured out very soon. This makes me nervous that this could potentially be a problem.
And I guess for the time frame, what I'm discussing with Matt, it's months to years. There's nothing immediate. There's no plans to move forward, next week, any of that kind of work. Mostly it's a lot of research and a lot of thinking about doing stuff.
Sure.
And then eventually you come to an agreement, if you do, on certain properties, and then it takes several years to play out. I would agree with you that it's not a good deal to get a solar array put on your landfill if people aren't willing to be responsible for the consequences of their install. That's just part of the risk of doing work on a landfill, that it's a more complex process, and the state does compensate us for that work with more money to offset some of that risk. So we're looking at this property in conjunction with the pump house property next door. Typically, this landfill is somewhat typical. I've worked on 2 that are similar, that this one is not lined, but it was capped. I believe it stopped working in the late 80s and taken, waste, and then was capped and closed formally in the early 90s.
Right.
That matches 2 landfills I've worked on directly in Dover and Beverly. I would propose to do this work, with my consultant, which is TRC, who did our engineering for our Wallum Lake Road project, and they're a very large firm. They've got a very deep bench And they've, I stopped counting after they got to a dozen different projects we've talked about. As I just looked at this one to make sure it's applicable, because at this point, if a landfill doesn't have solar on it, and yours is a smaller landfill, but there may be a reason why it has otherwise been skipped over, because during the earlier days of solar, those were super high on the list. Everyone was real excited, solar on landfills instead of trees, and that was great, except it is obviously a lot harder to do because of the surface you're working on and the conditions you have to sign up for.
Right.
It's more of a specialty owner-operator than a generic put in the field and forget about it kind of setup. Physically, that looks very similar to a normal array, except we put everything on ballasts instead of driving anything into the ground. So there's a large amount of engineering about the integrity of the cap. So far as your questions, and that's a whole separate issue with the, I guess, arsenic-related discussion. Whole separate issue from me, but so far as solar in the cap, we would absolutely expect that to be a contingency. That if you need to build the array such that you can work around it. So you have to leave access lanes to things like vents and other testing sites, etc. So you don't get as much solar as you might think out of the acreage. Also, landfills tend to slope a lot, although yours is relatively flat compared to most landfills that are very moundy. So you use ballast, you spread things out a whole lot, and there's a ton of engineering that takes place with like a group like TRC going to the DEP for a post-closure use permit. Their engineers, when looking at landfills similar to this, a lot of the, once you bring something up to the DEP, of course, they're going to review the landfill with the solar involved. I've never worked on a landfill where there was a separate issue ongoing. Usually they've been closed for 20 years, and that's great. But the issues that we come up with typically is the DEP is primarily and mostly concerned with the damage we might cause to a cap during construction. That's typically 90% of what their study is.
So, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But, so we would be probably looking at a bonded contractor, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. From a construction standpoint, yes, overwhelmingly.
Okay.
And so when we look at like what the DEP requires for landfills, typically it's kind of preventative maintenance for a cap. That if we're going to go put bobcats on the surface of that, well then we might need to add fill here and there, because there'll be inspections of the landfill, to see what we need to do, and it's sort of preventative / remedial maintenance before we go do some measure of construction on those.
Okay.
Typically you take pre-poured or concrete blocks and you put some gravel on the ground to level it out just a little bit, and you drop the block with the bobcat, and you just build the frame on top of the landfill. Otherwise, all the electrical stuff stays above ground, and it's a pretty normal solar array.
Right. Well, go ahead, Dave.
How much of the engineering work can be done informally?
A great extent, I can draw on resources from TRC to say what they've done previously and compare it to other projects. That does, of course, require me to have some kind of contract to do work with the town, or in this case, the Board of Health through the town, or however that, I don't know how that legal setup works out. I need to be authorized to actually do the work, and of course have some prospect of actually doing the work in a contractual way. The answers have to come from the DEP. Ultimately there's no way to get an answer that is 100% bankable, because that's what the DEP gives you, even if you do all the work for them.
Right.
And engineers can give you a dozen different projects that have very similar parameters and acceptable solutions. I'm not the one who can sign that off.
I guess that I was taking that in a different direction. If you walk out onto the landfill area and you do engineering work, which is how deep can you go before you hit a problem, and how much load can that area support, how big does the area have to be, that kind of engineering analysis, but in an informal way.
Yes, we can do that. That's a very important, I guess, factors of how you design a contract with the town to work on the landfill. And for instance, that might very clearly stipulate that I need to work with TRC before going anywhere near the DEP to do a full analysis on the landfill before we break the seal of talking to the DEP about a landfill. Small note in your description, we don't go below ground at all with landfills, not 1 inch. Because that's part of maintaining the cap integrity. Everything is above ground.
How do you determine what the load rating is of the particular?
That part was spot on. When you're talking about how much you can put. in an area. So that's a question of you do the analysis on weight of the concrete blocks and the panels added onto them. There are a couple different ways you can put the racking of the solar together, you know, bigger panels or bigger sets of panels like too tall will have you a bigger block than
And my
one.
question is, how do you determine the load areas?
I mean,
You
it's
know what the
just,
load is.
yeah, it's just the weight over the of the space you're gonna
Well,
put it out.
if you put it on swamp, it's different than putting it on granite.
Well, and that's part of the analysis with, you know, say the TRC group, who will look at what our solution needs to be. How broad does your footing need to be for a concrete block, by way of example? Or maybe you don't have as solid of a ground as you want and you use smaller rows and you spread them out a little bit more, so you don't have nearly as much
So
weight
how
over
much
any
of that can
foot.
be done just between the two of us here?
I mean, that's most of it. But I just can't get you to an answer that the DEP approves
No,
of.
that's okay.
I'm not terribly concerned about the weight. I've never seen a landfill have a trouble with that is capped, of course, having a weight problem with the weight of the panels. I mean, the density of that stuff it's less weight per square foot than a typical person standing on the landfill, because you make big old whomping concrete blocks that spread the weight out. They're not that heavy, they're just broad.
How would this benefit the town?
Revenue, ultimately. The solar program now very heavily favors brownfields and landfills, things like that. There just aren't that many of them left. And town-owned properties, which this is obviously both of. Towns during the first wave of the most recent solar program, which is continuously expanding and rules are changing all the time by year. Not like every week, but every couple of years. Towns got kind of left out of the push because they're not nearly as fast to act as private landowners, and power lines can fill up. So towns got a little bit frustrated that they might have great properties, but they just can't keep up with individuals who can sign an agreement in 2 weeks.
So how would it benefit your company, say?
So typically what happens is my group would develop, hire construction, own and operate long-term. That happens under a long-term ground lease, by which we pay the town. I believe it's the town and not the Board of Health. I, again, don't know exactly who the ownership structure is. But they get a long-term lease rate based either on a fixed price we can go with or an amount of solar we install. And there you can, you know, sort of put both of those things in place to ensure there's a minimum value for your headache of getting into the business of it. And then, of course, the owner-operator makes money on top of that. So it effectively puts the landowners like a senior position, that they get the rent, you know, as you're paying all your bills, and then the owner-operator, you know, takes the risk over the 20-plus years.
How about maintenance?
All handled by us. If I were looking at a piece of town property, whole time,
Oh, okay.
entirety. For instance, when I buy land to do that, and I'm doing this down in Cape Cod actually this week, we're gonna buy a piece of property on the private market. We're going to donate it to the town, so then the town then owns it. But we're gonna simultaneously have a lease for every square foot of that property. All, you know, bonded, insured, everything, so the town doesn't have any, I guess, responsibilities
Liability,
for it, and liability.
Right.
And that, you know, that's a very lawyered up document, but that's what they're for.
Yeah.
And same thing here, you know, there are plenty of landfill documents to use to build an agreement like that have been vetted and, you know, good. You know, we can certainly spend time looking for the right arrangement. But ultimately, if it is the solar or happens because of the solar, it is the responsibility of the owner operator, which may include disassembly and taking stuff off if you need to. But that's the point of the incredibly thorough engineering we have to do, because I'd much rather spend the money up front making sure there's no problem rather than have to start dismantling an operating system, because that's what I'm required to do.
If you were to pull a number out of the air, what would the benefit to the town be?
I'd love to get you to 100,000 a year. I don't know if I can fit that much solar on the array. That's 2.5 megawatts of solar, which is not impossible for this area, but it really is a matter of how many places you have to skip on the array, which is just not something you can really know yet. You know, I can go walk out to an event, but I'm not the one who knows.
But you're just approximating.
A little bit. I know I can look at acreage from a bird's eye view, I can look at slope, I can do all of those things on like a normal piece of ground if there were no landfill. I could be very confident. But I can't with a landfill. There are too many experts who need to weigh in to make sure it's ironclad to know that I can get that much. And that's also a measure of how much connection capacity is on the power lines. That's a factor of other projects I do with the town as well. But I'd like to think, the reason I talk about like per megawatt volume of solar pricing and the floor is to kind of, you want to have both mechanisms,
Right.
minimum to be worth getting into it, and then a scaling price that reflects if I can build more solar, everyone gets paid more, including yourselves.
Do we have any? go
Quick
ahead.
question.
Yes.
Just thinking about the cap, I mean, we have that mowed twice a year. Would you guys take, if there's solar panels everywhere, would you guys
We
take
have-
care of them all?
we have to
and
mow
everything?
it, yeah.
You guys
So
do all
that's-
the maintenance on it?
That's like a normal green field where we're just gonna go keep, you're talking about like at Myers Perked Up, we were talking about the species of like grass or clover you're putting down, cause that's my interests pop up again. We have to keep the modules, clear of any kind of growth. So typically that's keeping, the leading edge, 18 or so inches up. On landfills that can often be lower because we do mow it more often. So you
Right.
just don't keep, the
And
weeds
not
from going
just
over.
So at the top, but your mowing would take care of the sides, the embankments
Yeah,
as
we
well?
just, I mean, if we're gonna hire a mower to go out there, we just do it all.
You just do it.
Even if there's, there's not a lot of need to like work on the north side, there's absolutely no reason for us to hire a mower to do 90% of the property.
Right.
Was it gonna cost us $30 a month to
Finish.
have the guy finish up?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Well, we thank you, Evan.
Yes, sir.
You gave us a lot of information, and we'll
Yeah, I really like the solar idea. I mean, I've always been alternate energies
Yeah.
are a great thing.
Yeah.
I
I
just
like
worry-
the idea of it because, we're looking to conserve, we're recycling, we're trying to do,
Mhm.
the best we can for our town and for the environment, so, yeah, I like the idea myself.
I do too. I think we need to button up what this means for us. That little letter.
Yeah.
I think we need to figure out that. But like you said, we're not talking like 3 weeks from now, so.
No, this will take months and months. I would
So-
be
Right,
surprised if I got to an agreement with the town, who obviously has to do an RFP for a public
sure.
use of public goods. Then I have to win the RFP,
Mhm.
and then we've got to talk more commercial terms. So 95% of that, say a document with the Board of Selectmen, that would be develop and then lease, afterwards if successful, would apply to the solar array on the landfill, and then we would have, say, additional terms that would be appropriate for a landfill development.
Right.
That aren't necessary for a standard greenfield, piece of woods, piece of field, whatnot.
I would say that we're looking at it in a positive
Okay.
fashion, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir. So in the meantime, I'm gonna, of course, be talking to Matt, on the weekly, monthly,
Mhm.
and then a couple other, landowners around town to put together kind of a big portfolio of projects, which I hope this is one of them.
Mhm.
And then I guess I'll keep you guys informed for what kind of steps would be helpful going down the line. Sooner or later, I think it probably rolls into a larger town RFP. If I had to, how other towns have done it for a number of properties,
Sure.
then I think, probably requires this board's authorization
Mhm.
to include it, to roll it up into a package of properties,
I see.
that is ultimately falls under the umbrella of the town.
Okay, well, hopefully you'll bring more information to us, and we'll digest it and go from there.
Yes, sir. So I think maybe the next step for me, I keep talking to Matt,
Mhm.
and I'll put together some information in writing that I'll submit to the board for your review. And I don't really have another meeting date I need, just
Right.
for you to digest, and then sooner or later we'll decide to talk again, I
Okay.
hope.
Yeah, and just for the record, I would be comfortable with this if we knew that what you were going to do had no negative impact before we went and broadcast it to the world.
Yeah, we're not broadcasting anything. We're just,
No, and that's the trick. Like, if something isn't broke, you don't want to try to fix it.
right.
Like, if the landfill works, you're not trying to like fix it for a little bit of value.
Right.
And that's part of like, if I have, a number of projects with the town, and this is one of those parts of the portfolio, they're gonna be wrapped together.
Mm.
So that, if, for instance, there are issues that cause economic requirements and cost, for the landfill, it's not just a one-off project,
Mhm.
that is obviously floats or fails, by itself.
Right.
It's part of a much bigger supported, piece of equipment that can pay its bills regardless.
Mhm.
Obviously, we want the landfill to work out, but
Sure.
it's a stronger, 5 and 6 projects are a much stronger portfolio than a one-off.
Absolutely. Emily, do you have anything to add? How do you feel about?
I feel like I'm always the one who's like, when are we gonna get those solar panels up there,
Ah,
so.
okay.
Who is paying for the panels for installation?
Oh,
We pay
we would be
everything.
Okay,
leasing.
so we don't have.
We would be leasing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've looked at that like
Just
at the school as well, and some other, like the
Mhm.
property immediately next door, is I just lease the development rights more or less for every foot that we agree to.
Okay,
that's
just
a-
don't take the football field, because we have a hell of a football team.
You know, we're looking at stuff, I mean, I've gotta talk to the school committee in like April, but I'm
Those
looking at
poles are
between
really-
those two. I'm looking at the land between the middle and the high school, as well as the land that's pretty lumpy south of the high school. But otherwise, great, town owned, not terribly used.
Are you looking at the parking lots also?
They're not
No
really
place
that
to
big.
park.
They're not,
We'll-
parking
we'll
lots
walk
are,
to work.
you'd think they'd be great, but they're not. You have to spend about twice the cost to put
How
all
do
the
you park
steel in
between
place.
the-
You gotta raise everything
Yeah, you've gotta raise
so
everything
high.
up to
Oh,
10, 12
okay,
feet, and in a
okay.
school parking lot, you're talking buses.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've gotta probably go up to
That's
12
quite a
to
project.
14.
That becomes a project.
It's a lot of
isn't it?
steel once you
So take a look
consider,
at the Mendon Middle School.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll see how it could be.
it's a lot of steel once you get that high up, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
expensive, they have to pay us more to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't honestly get that much out of it from a power perspective,
Mm.
because, I mean, you're talking maybe 200 kilowatts, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a tenth of what you're talking about on a landfill,
Yeah,
or maybe half an acre as part of a big project. So it's a whole lot of effort for not a ton of volume.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have like snow falling off those things, and now you've gotta have liability for that I can't be entirely responsible for, but no one else wants.
Right.
And then all the management, I gotta start taking up your parking lots, like, so now I gotta build in the summer. It becomes a real big issue, and it's nice that they're there, but it's just real hard to do two things in one spot really well. That's why landfills are hard. But, I mean, people use that parking lot every day, they don't use the landfill proper every day.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't, put these over the transfer station, like, that'd be the same equivalent, like, now we're talking about how we move
George could
trucks
shovel
around
the
there.
snow.
Mhm. So,
Okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you
All
for your
right, thank you
time.
for
Thanks a lot.
coming.
Good evening.
We appreciate the information too.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we have a date.
You wanted mid-March, right?
Well, I'm on vacation,
Okay,
so
so,
it can't be the 16th,
okay, so we'll make it 23rd?
23rd.
Yeah,
Why did we need to meet early?
I'm
For the
trying to do the
bids?
art.
because of the,
I mean, or I can work on them and go over them with you.
okay, that's
So we
fine.
can meet the
That's
30th
fine.
if
Yeah,
you want,
that's
just keep it
fine.
the last Monday,
Okay.
we'll do that,
Yeah, we'll work on, then we'll present it to the board.
You went to the 30th?
yeah.
I don't write it
30th.
down because
That was
Kristen
unfair.
keeps me in touch.
Oh, you're away now.
Yes, that they are meeting for now.
I got my twin brother's birthday, so I write everything down.
Ah, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We do?
Thanks, so
Oh,
moved.
okay.
Yeah.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.